And now, let's take a look at what's new at BoardGameBliss.com with Nick Meehan.
Hey now, it's Nick here, and it is time for another episode of What's New at Board Game Bliss. This is where I tell you about some of the newest, hottest, or just interesting things available for purchase at my amazing sponsor, BoardGameBliss.com. Check them out. Even besides the games I'm about to rattle off now, there's just a lot of unique and interesting things there. There's so many games that are really difficult to get here in the States because your typical online retailers just don't carry them. But Board Game Bliss does. I'm always finding new hidden gems there, and it's just a fantastic resource. Another thing to keep in mind is that, like I said, they get all the newest and hottest games as well, and there are pre-orders that are available, things that will be coming out very, very shortly, like Forbidden Stars and the new edition of Arctic Scavengers and its expansion, and also the Voyages of Marco Polo. I haven't played that one yet, but I've heard very, very good things about it from some other people that I saw playing it last weekend. So keep an eye on those. And as I always say during these What's New segments, these are not reviews of these games that I'm about to rattle off. Some of the games I have played before, and I'll give you my honest opinion. Some of them I haven't, so I'm just going to point out what I think is interesting or comments that I might have, and I will always be honest with you, of course. So, without further ado, let's get to what's new at BoardGameBliss.com. First and foremost, Spyfall is now available, and I say it like that because other online retailers did get it this week as well, but they're all sold out. Board Game Bliss has it in stock. So if you've been hunting for a copy, you gotta check them out and you gotta order it now, because I'm gonna tell you honestly, it's amazing. It might be my favorite party game. I'm not quite sure about that yet, but I do know it's a ton of fun. It's a hidden deduction social game. One player is a spy, the other players are trying to figure out who is the spy, and they're working together against that one person. And you have these location cards, and everyone else except for the spy knows the location that you're in. The spy does not, but you have to ask each other questions to try to suss out who's on your team and who may just be the spy. There's lots of tension, it's fast, it's really, really fun. I enjoy it a lot, and Board Game Bliss is one of the only places you can get it now, so do check it out. Elysium is also available now at Board Game Bliss, and wow, check out my review for this, because I was head over heels for this game, and I still am. I would play it right now if I didn't have a tremendous backlog of games that I need to get to for review, because it's that fantastic. It is easy to learn, but it is a brain burner at times. I always feel like I could do better in that game, but I always have fun trying. So beautiful artwork, it's set collection mixed with action selection and trying to outwit the other players, outthink them. Oh man, it's so, so good. Check it out. The winner of the Spiel Jahres will be announced soon, and one of the nominees is The Game. Yes, that's the name of the game, The Game, which is a terrible name. However, I have heard a lot of good things about The Game. I've heard it compared to Hanabi, in the sense that it's a cooperative game, and there is some hidden information. You're not allowed to just totally strategize with your allies at the table. You kind of have to give clues through clever card play, and the card play itself is sort of like number stacking. You're putting cards on top of different stacks, so it's abstract in that regard, and I've heard that the artwork is kind of weird as well. I have not played it though. I'm gonna be getting it very soon, and I'm gonna give it a shot and of course review it on the channel, but I am very interested in it, and I mean, if it earns a Spiel Jahres nomination, that definitely stands for something. So not many retailers have this game available right now. This could be your chance to get it. On the recommendation list for the Spiel Jahres is Ugo, and I really don't know much about this game. I know that it is a trick-taking game, which I've played some trick-taking games. Some of them I enjoy a bit. There was one called Chronicle from Seiji Kanai, the guy who did Love Letter, that is pretty enjoyable. For the most part, it's not really my genre, but a ton of people do like trick-taking games, obviously, if this was given a recommendation by the board for Spiel. It seems like it's interesting in the fact that the trick-taking itself happens normally. You're playing cards to the center, and whoever plays the highest card gets to take the trick, but the cards are then laid out in your kingdom by color, and then whenever you take more, you have to cover up those cards with the cards of the other color. I don't know. I kind of lost me at that point, but it does look pretty interesting if you're into those types of games. And again, to be recommended by the Spiel Jahres panel is no small thing. So take a look. Venezia 2099 has one of the most interesting themes I've seen in a board game in a little while. It takes place in Venice in 2099, of course, as the name implies, and it's, I guess because of climate change or whatever you want to say it is, the city is sinking, and all these glorious works of art and treasure from the Renaissance are in danger of being lost forever. So you and the other players are kind of scavengers, I guess. Maybe we'll call them art dealers who are trying to get all of these precious items. And of course, by getting them, you're going to be getting points for the end of the game. It looks kind of abstract in some ways, but it has what looks to be a very clever card action selection system. I don't know. I've never heard of this game before now, and I really dig the theme and the appearance of it. So I'll probably give it a shot at some point. The Majority Complete Edition from Ninja Star Games is actually 2 games in 1, and this is another game that I have actually reviewed. It's actually in 2 parts. I reviewed each game individually. I probably shouldn't have because both of them didn't do very well for the channel, but I digress. You should go and check out those reviews to get my opinion on them, because actually I have a very different opinion for both games that are in this box. The original Majority game, the Majority 1, is a ton of fun. It's a very interesting game of team game of simultaneously drafting cards and then revealing them in order to try to get points, but you don't want to be in first place for these things. You want to be in second place ideally, and then you get more points. It's a weird thing. Check out my review, but it's a lot of fun. It's kind of a brain-bending type of game. The Majority 2, however, while it has what could potentially be even more interesting mechanisms, just did not gel well for me or the people that I played it with, which is a shame. I think with some tweaking it could be fantastic. But I will say this, as a whole, the Majority 2 is certainly not bad, and the Majority 1 is so much fun that I would still recommend the complete edition of the Majority. Dodals is a game from Cosmos, and it is actually a remake or a re-implementation of a game called Barbarossa from quite a long time ago, I think. I remember seeing this very old-looking cover on Board Game Geek several times, like in math trades and things. And now this is a re-implementation of it, at least for North America. This game, when I read its description, the first thing that popped into mind is that this is Dixit with Play-Doh. Because what happens is one player is going to be sculpting something, some sort of figure, like a mountain or an animal or a horse, something. And the other players are going to be trying to guess it, and it's one of those things where you don't want to make it so obvious where your opponents might be able to nab the points for it, but you do need to make sure that, I think some people get it, something like that. I have to tell you though, just Dixit with Play-Doh sounds amazing, so I definitely may need to check this one out. Monikers is now widely available as well. Now, the interesting thing is that I did play Monikers. I don't own it, and I haven't done a review for it. But when I sat down to play it, I'm like, this is Time's Up. They copied Time's Up. Well, as it turns out, and I didn't know this, is that even Time's Up is based off of a public domain game called, I think, Celebrity, something that's been around for quite a long time. So Monikers is another version of that old game. However, Monikers does a couple of things very differently than Time's Up. One is that they add like a whole other round of the game where you have to like okay, if you're not familiar with Time's Up, let me start over. You have these clue cards based on different pop culture things, and you're working with partners, like in teams, trying to give your partner the clues necessary for them to guess what you're trying to get at. So if you're trying to say E.T., you'll have to give some clues, and it gets harder and harder as you go through the rounds. The first round you can say whatever you want and do whatever you want, make any kind of sounds or gestures, so long as you don't actually say what's on the card in any way, shape, or form. But then in the second round you can only give like sounds or one-word answers, and then in the third round you can only give like pantomime it. And then what Monikers does is add a whole other rounds where like you can only do finger puppets, like you have to get behind something or get down underneath the table and only use your hands to act out whatever the card is. Now, my one problem with the game is that, and it makes the game a little bit too long. You could just chop off that whole thing, and I think the game would be much better. But I like everything else about it because I actually think it's better than Time's Up because of the wide breadth of cards that are available in just the base set of the game, a lot of which are ripped directly from modern pop culture. So they're not just like really generic things or movies from the 80s, which I really appreciate. There's like a lot of internet references. Some of them are PG-13 to maybe R-rated, although not that dirty or anything like that, and you can easily take them out. So I liked it quite a bit. I just think it needed some work. It needed to be trimmed down just a little bit, but otherwise a fun party game. So there you have it. That is just a glimpse of the amount of stuff that is available for purchase at BoardGameBliss.com. You got to get there now if you're interested in any of these games, because now that I've mentioned it, they're going to be selling like wildfire. Is that a phrase? It should be selling like hotcakes, but selling like wildfire sounds better. Is wildfire a thing? I don't know, but go there, check them out. Thank you so much, Board Game Bliss, for your support, and thank you to all of you in the audience for supporting my awesome sponsor and for supporting the channel. Take care, have a good one, adios.